Welcome to Western Sydney Television News. I'm Christina Pollard. In this bulletin, 3 new aircraft are commissioned by New South Wales Police, a waste-to-energy incinerator is recommended for refusal in Western Sydney, and residents concerned over a new road corridor. Protesters have gathered at the Point Piper residence of Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull to protest against the Western Sydney Airport. The residents of the Blue Mountains and Western Sydney highlighted what they said was the hypocrisy and double standards of the Prime Minister when it came to protecting the peace and quiet of residents in the eastern suburbs of Sydney and those in the west.
We have lung cancer, we have all kinds of cancer because of the air pollution we already have.
The protesters said that Mr Turnbull wrote a letter to Woollahra Council in September 2016 objecting to the planned construction of a skate park in Rushcutters Bay, saying that the facilities would raise noise concerns for local residents that neighbour the park. However, their concerned residents of Western Sydney didn't warrant the same protection from 24/7 aircraft noise. Protesters provided 70 to 80 decibels of noise that they say many in Western Sydney will be subjected to 24 hours a day. Police have unveiled a state-of-the-art helicopter and 2 fixed-wing aircraft as the latest additions to the Aviation Support Branch. Police Force Commissioner Mick Fuller opened the hangar door in a commissioning ceremony at Bankstown Airport on April 10, joined by New South Wales Governor David Hurley and Police Minister Troy Grant. Pol Air 2 is a twin-engine Bell helicopter with a cruise speed of more than 220 kilometres an hour, while Pol Air 6 and 8 are turboprop Cessnas with a cruise speed of more than 340 kilometres per hour. The Pol Air fleet has conducted nearly 600 search and rescue operations and more than 300 missing person searches since July 2016. The new additions make it the largest police aviation fleet in Australia. The Department of Planning has found a proposed energy from waste incinerator proposed for Eastern Creek should be refused. Next Generation Proprietary Limited's facility would have burnt more than 500,000 tonnes of residual waste every year to make energy, but the department found the facility should be refused based on advice received from independent experts and government agencies, including the Environment Protection Authority and Health New South Wales. Blacktown Mayor and State MP Stephen Barley says the department's rejection of the incinerator proposal is another nail in its coffin and has vowed to move legislation designed to ban the development of energy from waste projects anywhere in the Sydney Basin. The application has been referred to the Independent Planning Commission for a final decision. Hundreds of residents across Penrith and the Hawkesbury have expressed their concerns over the state government's proposal for a new road corridor. The draft Bells Line of Road Castlereagh connection was released for consultation on March 26. The plan would set aside land for a future motorway. However, hundreds of residents have now found their homes in the direct path. Information sessions held by Transport for New South Wales in the Hawkesbury have become heated as residents demanded answers. The consultation period for the proposed road corridor winds up on June 1. A new control cabin has been installed on an air traffic control tower at Richmond RAF Base. The 79-tonne structure was carefully installed on top of the tower with the use of a 500-tonne hydraulic crane on March 29. The cabin will be used by air traffic controllers and communications electronics technicians. The tower will eventually feature a control cabin, external observation deck and a crew rest area, as well as toilet and kitchen facilities. The new facilities are due to be completed in December this year. Scenic World in the Blue Mountains has launched its 7th annual sculpture exhibition. Sculpture at Scenic World sees more than 30 artworks by local, interstate and international artists selected for the exhibition and then displayed in the natural beauty of the rainforest.
Sculpture at Scenic World is set in a pristine natural environment. It has bold installations, we've got boats up in trees, we've got umbrellas that are turned into birds, we've got subtle works, we've got sound works, we've got ceramics, there's all sorts of materials and there's so much fun.
The exhibition is held over 30 days to May 13.
These are 2 females.
Sculpture at Scenic World is a celebration of the environment, and we work really hard to maintain our 0% ecological footprint. We work with amazing art installers and arborists to make the exhibition pop.
So I used approximately 15,000 blocks to build this, and none of it is glued together. It's just interlocked.
I think that the young generation and teenagers will have one particular response. I think the older ones might have a different response, knowing sort of what the pieces sort of represent. But I hope everyone just gets a big kick and a bit of enjoyment out of them.
And now with the latest in Western Sydney real estate news, here's Darren Latty from PRD Nationwide Penrith.
This week we're going to talk about purchasing off the plan. It's been a very hot topic of late, and there are some risks and obviously advantages involved, so hopefully I can walk you through them and make it a bit clearer. So buying off the plan means that you purchase something which is either going to be under construction or is already under construction. So you purchase it today and then you pay the balance of the money when the property is complete. The advantages are that you can lock the property in at today's prices. So with apartments, you lock in the price, pay your 10%. The construction time is usually around 18 months. So in the 18 months, we recommend to our buyers that you actually try and save another 10% so that when the property is completed, you've got a 20% deposit, you don't have to pay any mortgage insurance, and it makes the cost of owning the property very similar to what the rent would be. So it's a really great strategy for first home buyers to get into the market. And it's also a really good strategy for investors because the rent that you would get from the rental property would then cover the mortgage costs. So the risks of buying off the plan are fairly easy to manage if you ask the right questions. So really you need to find out, does the developer have finance and with which bank? Does the developer require a certain number of sales to meet the terms of the loan approval? It's very important to know whether the developer's the builder, and if they're not the builder, who is the builder, what's their credentials? Can you look at some properties that they've built recently, just so you can get a feel for what the quality and the finish is like. So for me, buying off the plan is a really good strategy for most buyers, but it's just important to do your research before you jump in.
Now let's get behind the wheel of the latest Commodore with David Knoll.
It'd be fair to say that in Australian automotive history that this particular car is potentially the most important we've seen in decades. Why? This is a ZB Commodore, the first Commodore in 40 years not to be built in Australia, front-wheel drive and a turbo 4-cylinder to boot. One of the important design changes in the ZB Commodore, being based on the Opel Insignia, is that it's now no longer a true sedan, it's actually called a liftback. Badge, press, lift. It's as simple as that. ZB Commodore RS comes with a 2-litre 4-cylinder petrol, 191 kilowatts, 350 newton metres of torque, and you'd expect all of that torque going through the front wheels that you'd have torque steer. And there's a couple of words that Holden Commodore owners would never think to hear in the same sentence. But yes, it is a front-wheel drive and you'd never know it. You can poodle along at any old speed and there's no noticeable front-wheel drive torque steer whatsoever. It doesn't pull at the wheel when you give it a boot full. It's nice and easy as you drive around. The steering itself is nice and light. It's very responsive. Lovely padded steering wheel, by the way, with all the extra controls on here. And the good thing about this car is the amount of work that Holden has put in with their engineers here and locally. Over 100,000 kilometres worth of testing, and it shows. The car rides perfectly. The spring and damper rates are just about spot on. Hit a bump, there's no float, there's no pogoing, and it will just keep on going beautifully. The engine is fitted with stop-start technology, and unlike in the Equinox, you can actually turn it off in the ZB Commodore. There's also lots of standard trim, or standard safety equipment more correctly. You've got blind spot alert, you've got rear cross traffic alert. The ZB Commodore range starts with a model called the LT. This is the RS, it's the second one in the range, and Holden are currently doing drive-away specials at $38,990. Check holden.com.au for your local dealership, and a big thanks to Heartland Holden in Penrith for their support.
Finally, a Blacktown church has celebrated its 177th birthday. St Bartholomew's Church and Cemetery at Prospect was built in 1841. The former Anglican cemetery is the final resting place for prominent Blacktown citizens, including William Lawson, one of the first Europeans to cross the Blue Mountains, and Thomas Wilmot, the first Shire President of Blacktown. The occasion was marked on April 14 with a Back to St Bartholomew's Day, with historical displays and demonstrations of conservation work done on the graves. That's all for this bulletin. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook and subscribe to us on YouTube. I'm Christina Pollard. Thanks for joining us.